Man, this is lifestyles of the poor and unfucking fortunate. But I tell you what, but bitch, we got views.
What's going on, everybody? This is part 2 of the Chad Arms, I guess, stories. Hopefully you enjoyed part 1. I'm going to try to do different setups for each part, just kind of change it up. It's a bit windy out here, and I'm a bit under the weather. I just got a cold. I promise it's not Rhone sinuses. But yeah, I appreciate everybody tuning in. Part 1, we basically talked about how I got into music and everything leading up to the end of 2005, when I really put out what I feel like is my first legit album, Something Special. Okay. 2006 is where we'll pick up. Now, January of 2006 is where I started Show and Prove Entertainment. I started Show and Prove Entertainment because so many people back then and all through my life, growing up, whether it be sports, music, just people in general. I'm going to be drinking a lot of water because my throat's dry, but was always talking about stuff they were going to do. They were going to do this, they were going to do that, they were going to do this. And I was just always like a kind of a person that just believed in proving it by your actions. So I just came up with Show and Prove Entertainment one day while I was in the studio recording, and that's kind of where that started, Show and Prove Entertainment. And 15 years later, we're still going. You know what I mean? And I still was messing with all the same people I messed with previously that I said in part 1. Brandon E, The Truth, Pudgy, Casper, Wicked, Rage, Lowe's, like Bonafide. All of us were still cool with each other, but I just was really starting to amp up my solo music. You know what I'm saying? I did do some collaborative projects. Me and my boy Bobby J did a project called Southern Gentleman, which is like an R&B rap project. My boy Brandon E and myself did a project called In the Spotlight. There was a collaborative project. Brandon raps and sings. So I was doing that stuff. But in 2006, I was really hitting the pavement hard with grinding with the mixtapes. Because again, this was before internet as far as social media goes. There was internet. But 2006, YouTube, we didn't know about YouTube yet. I don't know if it was out yet, but Dat Piff was big, and that was what you grinded your mixtapes on. I'm trying to think. MySpace may have been a thing. I don't remember. It's kind of foggy. But I know in 2006, I was busy working and recording. I dropped the project with Bobby J, Southern Gentleman. It's on all streaming platforms. I dropped a project called Special Music. Now, this is when we started collaborating with Jelly. I met Jelly in 2005 outside of a Cadence show, a Cadence album release party. Salute to Cadence. And we just clicked. He came and me, him, and Brandon E, and BJ, and all of us was just chilling outside, and Pudgy, all of us was just chilling outside the venue, chopping it up. Well, then Jelly comes and cuts features for us and Lyrical Royalty Entertainment family and all that. Well, me and Jelly just stayed close. You know what I mean? And Jelly was cutting features for me like crazy. I think I did 3 or 4 albums that year, mixtapes. I did Southern Gentleman with Bobby J. I did Special Music, the mixtape. I did a mixtape. I did multiples that year. Jelly would drive all the way out from wherever he was at and come cut features for me. And Jelly never charged me a dime for anything. We just became really cool. In 2006 is when I really started to get a little momentum, I felt like, which leads us into 2007. And that's when I dropped a mixtape called I Live By My Label, which was Show and Prove Entertainment. And some of the songs that me and Jelly did on the collection that's out are on that mixtape. This Where I'm At was on there. There was a lot of stuff going on. But I dropped that and as a prequel to my album that was my most hyped album at the time. It was called Rapaholic. Now, this is when I was still going by C-Dub. I don't even know if I touched on that. I started going by C-Dub. C-Dub was my rap name. And I went by the C-Dub rap name until 2008. Rapaholic was still C-Dub, but I just wanted to be something that was more original to me. You know what I mean? So we dropped Rapaholic. We started doing a lot of shows around 2007. That's where we got introduced to the Rutledge. My boy T-Sean, salutes T-Sean. Him and his wife now, but at the time, it was just his friend Tabitha. Linked us in with Latino Saint and Capo. Salute to y'all. And we really got to grinding with the Rutledge shows. That's where stuff really started to build. Rapaholic, I gained some traction with that one. And that's when I first got to start working with my buddy Zach Crowell. Zach Crowell is a #1 producing and writing songwriter. He writes and produces for Sam Hunt. Back Road from Sam Hunt's one of his biggest hits. But at the time, Zach was just a producer. He produced for Cadence. We met him the same night we met Jelly, is what's crazy. That same night at that Cadence show. Zach produced a lot of the tracks on my Rapaholic album, along with Broadway. And that's when me and him really got locked in and started working on things together. But 2007, I want to say, is when Jelly got locked up, around that time frame. And I remember, going into 2008, I changed my name to Chad Arms from C-Dub, because that's my name. Like, you can't take my fucking name from me. The guy threatened me that said he owned the name C-Dub. He was some kind of DJ. And then just a lot of people was confusing me with other rappers named C-Dub. So I was like, I'll just change my name to my name. You know what I mean? So that's what I did. In 2008, I put out Mr. Nice Guy. That one was a dope project. It was produced mainly by Jody Stevens and Zach Crowell. And Jelly was on 2 songs on that record as well. The one that people really like is Open My Eyes. That's the one that people know the most, I guess, from me and Jelly, other than I Love You. And again, 2008, though, Jelly was locked up the majority of 2008, but we stayed in contact. And me and Jelly, I actually was running Jelly's MySpace page for him while he was incarcerated. I was keeping in contact with him daily. We were selling his mixtapes to help put money on his books, help keep money on my phone, money on his people's phone, all that stuff. The end of 2008 comes, and that is when Jelly gets out, and we hit the ground running with the house arrest stuff. We get out. Jelly, I had done some work with Hyrola, and Jelly was like, he hadn't been doing music, but he's getting back into it. We started recording over there, and that is where ChadArmesTV started. Now, ChadArmesTV started, I just got a wild hair up my ass and said, I'm going to go buy a video camera. My boy BJ used to do a lot of filming and stuff, and getting video footage, and we used to love going over his house and watching the footage back on the little cassette things. And I was like, man, I'm going to get me a camera. So my dumb ass put it on a Best Buy credit card that I never paid. And we started ChadArmesTV. New Year's Eve 2008. You can still see the super cringe blog of me. But that's where it started. And the first song we cut, I think, when Jelly got out, was the What You Doing record with me, him, and Rolla. Well, when Jelly got released, Jelly had a curfew. He had like a 7 or 8 o'clock curfew. So I was laid off from my job. I worked at a factory, and I got laid off for 3 months because it was just a slow time of year, but I was still getting paid unemployment. So I took that time to say, hey, let's do this. So I was going to pick Jelly up. Wherever Jelly ended up sleeping the night before, I'd go pick him up. We'd go run errands, whatever he needed to do. Go take him wherever he needed to go, and then we would hit the studio, and we'd be in there till I had to take him back to his spot for curfew. And we cut so many dope records there. Jelly cut his entire Gambling on a White Boy Volume 3 there and at D-Ray's. That's where I first met D-Ray as well. Was a huge fan of D-Ray from the Burners album and the CWB and all that stuff. That's when I met D-Ray around that time. 2009 also, and all this can be looked at on ChadArmesTV. You can go back and look at the archives. The Real Worm, Volume 1, R.I.P. Wizzle. That first time you see the camera come on is the first time I met Worm. Jelly was telling us about his boy Worm, and it was not the Worm from the Halfway House project him and Struggle did. It was a different Worm. Well, Worm comes over to he comes over to High Rollers that night, and we shoot The Real Worm Volume 1. And things just started taking off, man. We were just really trying to put content together. Now, keep in mind, this is when we're fast forwarding to 09, 08, 07, you know, that's when MySpace came along. So we started buzzing heavy on MySpace. Jelly's MySpace was booming, especially when he was locked up. And I was running his MySpace for him. He was getting hits. It's just a smidge of what he gets now. But like back then, that was a lot. So I met Worm, and we instantly clicked. You know what I'm saying? All of us did. And he had just been talking about Worm the whole time Worm was locked up, about how he can rap his ass off, and wait till y'all hear him. And then he brought him over, and then that's when they did The Man in the Mirror, which you can watch on The Real Worm Volume 1, right? That's why I met Worm, and that's where we really started to lock in as far as what was going on. You know what I'm saying? We were still making moves, you know, as show and prove, but we really started to really build a deep camp. You know what I mean? Squints was there from damn near day one. Brandon E was there from day one. Bobby Hooks. Shout out to everybody I've already talked about. Pudgy, Wicked, Casper. They was doing their own thing, but we've always still been super cool. But at the beginning, it was myself, the Truth. Truth had his own thing going. He goes by BJ Suter. He's usually on every album I do. He was going by his own thing, Full Blown Records. Brandon had different ENT, and I had Show and Prove, but we were the family. So when Show and Prove started, it was myself, Brandon E, Bobby Hooks, and BJ. And we just kept building it. You know what I'm saying? And fast forward, you know, I met Squints in 07, and Squints got down. Really, we hit it off quick, and he's been down ever since. But I was just backpedaling for that. But again, ChadArmesTV started in 2009. YouTube was new. You didn't get paid off YouTube. You didn't get. You can only make 11-minute videos. That's the longest videos you can make. Google didn't own YouTube. There was no apps. Jelly was the coolest person in the world because as soon as he got out, he had a touchscreen phone, and we were like, dude, how do you operate it? There's no buttons on it. It was insane to us. And now, I mean, look what we're doing on this. Is being done on my phone. Look at this camera. But yeah, YouTube started. ChadArmesTV really hit the ground running, and I was just taking that camera everywhere. I wish that I would have taken it and filmed more than I did, because there was so much footage that I could have recorded that I didn't. So ChadArmesTV starts. We meet Worm. Worm's working with us heavily. He starts working on his album. And then I guess we can talk about the freestyle. This will be the last part of this video that we'll do. We'll talk about Jelly's 10-minute freestyle. Jelly had done this all the time. Jelly was always freestyling. Jelly, as long as I've known him, now he writes, but back then there was no writing. The extent of Jelly's writing, and White said the same thing in the interview we did, Jelly would have a piece of paper, and he would just put the last word of each line, so he would know what to rhyme. Everything else, he would just freestyle it. Well, Jelly was always freestyling. That particular day, the studio was packed full of people, and Jelly was freestyling. And you know, if you watch the 10-minute freestyle, Jelly had been freestyling for 20 or 30 minutes before I cut the camera on, because my camera was almost dead. So everybody was just getting hype, and I just turned the camera on and got in front of him, and he started going. And that's the infamous freestyle. I mean, the people you see, my boy T-Shawn in the back, and for everybody that said he went into the bathroom and tooted something, he absolutely did not. That studio was hot as fuck in there. It was so hot in there. And he was going in there to put water on his face, but everybody swears that he was tooting a line, tooting powder, and he was not. Shout out to my dog T-Shawn. We joke about that all the time, but no, that's not what he did. But Jelly just went off, and that, you know, the freestyle, it was just epic. D-Ray was in the doorway standing there watching it. I was filming it. Somebody's firing off back there. We in the country. D-Ray was standing in the doorway. Roller was on the board, or was on over by the studio. I was filming. Bobby Hooks was there. My boy James M was there. Shout out to James M. Shout out to Bobby Hooks. I hope I'm not forgetting anybody. If I am, I know James M had some people with him too. But it was just epic. And my phone and my camera died. He kept going after that. But that freestyle, obviously, it's over 5 million views on my channel, and he's got it on his channel, and it's over however many hundreds of thousands. But that was the freestyle. That was the infamous Jelly Roll freestyle, man. The If My P.O. Ask, I Hang Drywall. That was all from that video. And what's crazy is that so many people have watched it and didn't know that I was the one that was filming it. So, but it was just momentous. I mean, that is the staple of ChadArmesTV, the Jelly Roll 10-minute freestyle. Anybody that knows Jelly can be like, Jelly Roll 10-minute freestyle, they're going to know what you're talking about, most likely. Unless they're brand new fans and they just don't really know about the rap side. But, yeah, man, it was an epic day. And Jelly recorded the Gambler on a White Boy Volume 3 there. And Worm recorded the majority of Mr. South to Death in that same spot. In 2009, man, 2009 was a big year. That was the year that ChadArmesTV started, man. And here we are 13 years later. 12 years later, 13 years later, and we're where we're at now. So that was part 2. Part 3 will basically get into 2010 and moving on. But I appreciate all the support. Thank y'all so much. Let me know what y'all think of these. And again, we're going to try to keep pumping these out for you. I may go ahead and knock out the rest of these at this one spot. I don't know. We'll see how I feel. But y'all be sure to hit that like button, subscribe, join the Patreon. $5 a month for bonus podcast content. ChadArmesTV. RIP Worm.